Hello everyone, welcome to Chapter 3, Lesson 8, and we're dividing decimals by decimals. So after scanning the lessons, we're going to predict two things. I know one thing for sure. We're going to learn how... let's change that color. How to change the divisor to a whole number by moving the decimal. That's my decimal point. And like we've been doing, how to annex zeros in the quotient and dividend when necessary. So we're going to check out the real world link. It says the art studio has 36 gallons of acrylic paint. They separate it into 9 containers. How many gallons are in each container? So it says this is a division problem, 36 divided by 9. So that means the quotient is going to be 4. It says use a division problem to find patterns and complete the tables below. Then use these patterns to describe dividends, divisors, and quotients in each set. So number 1, we have 36 divided by 9/10, and that's 40. 36 divided by 9/100 is 400. 36 divided by 9,000 is 4,000. And 36 divided by 9/10,000 will be, based on the pattern, we've been adding a 0 each time, so we're going to say it's going to be 40,000. So one thing we notice is the dividends are the same. And that's the 36. 36 is the dividend, and it remained the same the whole time. But each time, the decimal point of the divisor moves one place to the left. And the decimal point of the quotient moves one place to the right. Running out of space, so I'm just going to use a right arrow. So for number 2, now instead of the divisor, so this is the divisor, the dividend is going to be the one in changing in number 2. So this is 3 6/10 divided by 9 is 4/10. 36/100 divided by 9 is 400. 36,000 divided by 9 is 4,000. And 36/10,000 divided by 9 is going to be 4/10,000. So this time we're going to say the decimal point of the dividend moved one place to the left, and the quotient moved, the decimal point of the quotient moved one place to the left. So number 3, we have 3 and 6/10 divided by 9/10 is 4. 36/100 divided by 9/100 is 4. 36/100 divided by, or 36,000 divided by 9,000 equals 4. And 36/10,000 divided by 9/10,000 is also going to equal 4. So in this case, the decimal point of the divisor and dividend moved one place to the left. The quotient remained the same. So, especially in number 3, a lot of our division problems, decimals and decimals, we're going to be moving the decimal in both the divisor and dividend. But it's very important to know that the quotient still remains the same, as long as we move both places the same way. So I'm going to explain that a little bit more in example 1. So we have 1 and 71/100 divided by 9/10. So what we're going to do is, we can write it over here. So the dividend is 9/10, and the divisor dividend is 1 and 71/100, and the divisor is 9/10. So the thing that we're going to do is we need the divisor to be a whole number. So in order for that to happen, we're going to move this decimal place once to the right. That way the 9/10 becomes a 9. But remember, in example 3, I'm going to do the divisor and the dividend. So the dividend, I'm only going to move one place. So both of them are moving one place, and my new problem is going to be 17 and 1/10 divided by 9. And we're still going to get the same quotient because both of the decimal places moved equally. So 9, so now we do our dividing. So divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. And remember, since we're dividing decimals, then there's going to be no remainder. So I'm going to put the decimal just above the dividend, so the decimal of my quotient is going to be the same. 9 goes into 1 0 times. 9 goes into 17 once. Multiply. It's 9. Subtract. It's going to be 8. We're going to bring down the 1. And we're going to repeat. 9 goes to 81 9 times. 9 times 9 is 81. And now that we have 0 here, that means my answer is complete. So our answer is going to be 1 and 9/10. Okay, so number 2, example 2. So first it's going to ask us to estimate. So if we have 2 and 64/100 and we have 6/10, 2 and 64/100 is close to 3. And 6/10 is close to 1, so 3 divided by 1 is going to be 3. So we're going to try example 2. So we have to multiply 6/10 by 10 to make a whole number. So now we have to multiply the dividend, 2 64 hundredths, by the same power of 10. The good news is, what we did here, back in example 1, moving the decimal place to make the number bigger, that's equivalent to multiplying it by 10. So we actually did it in example 1, but we just didn't show it. So we're going to go ahead, and the 6/10 changes into a 6, and then the 2 64 hundredths turns into 26 4/10. So the decimal place is going to be here. 6 goes into 2 0 times. It's not a very clear 0. This is a little bit small. So that goes in there 0 times. 6 goes into 26 twice. 2 times 6 is 24. I'm going to subtract. It's going to be 2. Bring down the 4. 6 goes into 24 4 times. And then 4 times 6, 24, and that's going to equal 0. So 2 64 tenths divided by 6/10 is going to be 2 4/10. So 2 4/10 and the estimated 3, those are close. So I can say yes, my quotient is reasonable. So go ahead and spend a few moments on A, B, and C. I'm actually going to help you guys set up the problems before we head out. So we have 54 4/10 divided by 1 7/10. We have 8 424 thousandths divided by 36 hundredths. And then we have 63 10,000ths divided by 7,000ths. And remember, we're moving the decimal place of the divisors so that these are whole numbers. And you move the same amount in the dividend. So go ahead and pause the video and try out these problems. Alright, so here are my answers for A, B, and C. So for A, we have 32, B, we have 23 4/10, and C, we have 9/10. So in A, we had to move the decimal place to the right once. So that's why my decimal place is here, because we moved the decimal place. For B, we had to move it twice. So my decimal place is going to be here. And C, we had to move the decimal place 3 times. So put my decimal place in the new spot here. And then we just went ahead and divide, which we've been doing the last few lessons. All right, so we're going to move on to example 3. It says, line up the numbers by place values as you divide. Annex zeros in the quotient in order to keep digits with the correct place value. Annex zeros in the dividend to continue dividing after the decimal point. Okay. So example 3, we have, I'm going to write over here to the side, we have 52, and then we have 4/10. So we need to move this decimal place to the right once. That means the decimal place will need to be moved to the right. And that means now we're actually going to be dividing by 520. So we're annexing a 0. So we have, and then so our answer for our decimal point is going to go right there. So 4 divided by 5 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. We're going to subtract. That's 1. We're going to bring down the 2. 4 goes into 12 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. Subtract, and that's 0. Now we still have a leftover 0 here. And when we bring down the 0, it's still going to be 0. So this is when we bring down a 0, but there's nothing else to do. We're actually just going to annex a 0 here. So our final answer is going to be 130. So right here it says write a 0 in the ones place of the quotient because 0 divided by 4 equals 0. So that's why we added the 0 here to the 130. So for example 4, so we have 1, 2, 9, and then we have 18. So I'm actually going to rewrite the problem for better clarity. So we're going to move the decimal place twice. So now this is 18 and then 9/10. So 18 cannot go into 9, so we're going to annex the 0 in our dividend. So 18 goes into 90. Well, 18 cannot go into 9, so we're going to add a 0 here. 18 goes to 90 5 times. So 5 times 18, it's going to be 90. After we subtract, we get zeros. So this is our final answer is 5/10. Number 5, it says find 11 2/10 divided by 7/100. So I'm going to rewrite this. It always helps me to rewrite. That way I know what to do. So we have to move the decimal place to the right twice. So every time we move the decimal place, we're actually multiplying by 10 each time. So since this is times 10 again, so 10 times 10, we're multiplying both numbers by 100. So our new problem is going to look like this. So 1, 2. So we're going to add a 0 there. New problem is going to look like this. So 7 goes into 1 0 times, 7 goes into 11 once. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract is 4. Bring down the 2. 7 goes into 42 6 times, and then 42 minus, so 0. Bring down the 0. 7 goes into 0 0 times. So our final answer is 160. So go ahead and try D, E, and F. Just remember, make sure we write down the problems correctly. Always write just like this. And then we have 4/10 is the dividend, and then 25 is our divisor. So go ahead and try those problems. So here are the problems for D, E, and F. I just worked them out for you guys. So if you notice in E and F, we actually didn't have to move the decimal place, but we did have to annex a few zeros. So example 6, this is how many times as many internet users are there in Japan than in Spain? Round to the nearest tenth. So if we look at the table, in Spain, we have 40 and 4/10. In Japan, we have 127 4/10. So we have to find 127 and 4/10 divided by 4 and 4/10. So we're going to move over the decimal to the right in both the divisor and dividend. And after we divide, we get the answer of 3 and 15/100. So if we round that to the nearest tenth here, that's going to round up to 3 and 2/10. So that's the end of the notes. So thank you for watching.